Shoto from My Hero Academia. So, Shoto stands out as an absolute fan favorite of the series. He's your classic, quiet, serious, brooding boy with a dark past kind of character, but he's written extra well here. Shoto and his family play a major role in the story, not just on the hero side, but on the villain side as well with Dabi. And they're all complex characters with their own arcs. We watch as Shoto learns to embrace a side of himself that he tried to ignore and repress for most of his life, that being his father's fire quirk, and he becomes, able to use it in conjunction with his mother's ice-based powers. Shoto overcoming his hatred towards his own father and learning to accept who he is and use Endeavor's powers to grow and become the best hero he can possibly be is an interesting journey to watch. It makes him one of the most interesting characters in Class 1A, a lot of whom aren't nearly as fleshed out. Vegeta. Goku is one of the most beloved anime characters of all time, probably, but Vegeta is just so much more fleshed out and interesting as a character. There's some real meat to him, a lot more to unpack, right? At first, he was your more standard villain, power-hungry and arrogant with no care whatsoever for humanity, but during the Frieza saga, it became clear that there was more to this character than we originally thought. We see that Vegeta has a history with Frieza, and watching him turn on his soldiers and take them out in this brutal, unforgiving manner is one of the most entertaining parts of the whole saga. His rivalry with Goku is also at the heart of a lot of Z and Super, and we've come to really love it when he attains a new level of power that rivals Goku's. I remember everyone cheering and clapping in the theater when he attained Super Saiyan Blue for the first time during Resurrection F. Vegeta represents all the more negative aspects of our personalities that are often looked down upon. He has a massive ego, he can be incredibly resentful, selfish, but all these things make him more relatable than the often perfect hero that is Goku. Roronoa Zoro from One Piece. Zoro just brings a level of cool to a series that's so full of boisterous, silly characters. Not that I'm saying the sillier stuff in One Piece is bad or anything, in fact, quite the opposite. But when Zoro steps up to take on an enemy, you're in for a more hard-hitting fight than most of the ones our rubbery protagonist engages in. I love Luffy. I think out of all the shonen protagonists, he may be my favorite. He's definitely up there anyway. But Zoro definitely steals the show for a lot of One Piece fans. That green hair is instantly recognizable, and that three-sword style, just how cool is that? How can you look at that and not be a fan of this character from the get-go? When the rest of the crew is dancing and laughing after a big win, Zoro is usually seen casually drinking booze in a corner somewhere. He's just too cool to dance around. This is also the type of character that can easily fall into that edgy brooding category, but Zoro never does. He's just a stoic warrior with a strong sense of honor and loyalty to his captain. Killua Zoldyck from Hunter x Hunter. Gon is great and all, but he never ascends to his best friend's level of cool factor. Killua is just better than Gon at almost everything. Being that he was raised to be an assassin, he has a very particular set of skills that he's acquired over a very short career, skills that make him a nightmare for our main hero, outshining him on a consistent basis. Seriously though, one of the first things we see this kid do is rip a guy's heart right out of his chest. He immediately becomes one of the most interesting characters in the entire series. Like, who is this kid? How did he do that? What are the limits of his abilities if he was able to do that without even breaking a sweat? He's an interesting character too, because outwardly, most of the time anyway, he seems like a normal, kind-hearted kid, but in the right situation, his dark side comes out and it makes for some pretty memorable moments. Sasuke from Naruto. Probably goes without saying, but this series wouldn't have been nearly as popular without this character in it. The story almost revolves around him entirely. I mean, sure, watching Naruto grow up as a shinobi with the goal of one day becoming the greatest ninja in the land, but Sasuke is almost just as much of an obsession for him as his goal of becoming Hokage. In the original series, Naruto simply wanted to surpass Sasuke. He represented this major hurdle in Naruto's big life goal, leading up to the time skip and almost all throughout Shippuden. However, Naruto and Sakura felt the need to save Sasuke. He was this heroic character who had fallen from grace, going down a dark path. He's an incredibly flawed character who, at his worst, was almost downright evil at one point, but his story has is probably the most interesting out of the main cast. Coming in at the top of the list is Levi Ackerman from Attack on Titan. I think everyone would have been pretty disappointed, if not downright angry, if this guy wasn't on the list, and I can understand that. Levi is just cool. He manages to be cooler than a main character who can transform into actual titans himself. That's almost as impressive a feat as Levi's actual feats in the series, like dicing up countless numbers of titans, including taking on the Beast Titan on 2 separate occasions, which are some of the best fights in the entire series. He's your classic stoic hero, but with other elements that make him a deeper and more interesting character. Sure, he has a military mind with a tough disposition, never seeming to show any emotion, but even though he doesn't show it, there is pain behind his blank stare. He's just an expert at restraining himself in tough situations. Situations like watching all of his comrades get torn apart by titans, for example. Levi is basically a living highlight reel, delivering some of the most classic moments in the entire series. And that's why he proudly sits at that #1 spot.